Hi, my name is Jamie. Welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back and joining me again for another episode. And if this is your first time here, I'll tell you a little bit about what I do. So I'm just a home cook. I have no chef experience or formal training, anything like that. And I try out different recipes or something that sounds like it goes together most of the time. I actually just get up, check my cupboards, my freezers, the refrigerators. I think there's a prior video that shows me doing this. And then I figure, okay, we'll have a lot of this, or, this sounds good, so what can I make out of this? And then I come up with a dish that hopefully turns out to be edible. And so far, my track record's pretty good. I think I've made one dish in the past 2 years that, while it was edible, it was not very good. So, this morning I got up, I had some leftover rotisserie chicken, and I thought, okay, why not shred that up and maybe put it in a pasta dish? So that was my intent until I shredded the chicken. And then I realized, okay, well, there's not quite as much chicken as I thought there was. And so this was all the more chicken I ended up with after I shredded up the rotisserie chicken, the leftover. So I changed my mind and I pulled out a pound of ground beef that I'm going to brown up instead. But this recipe that I'm going to be using, you can pretty much use any type of meat, and you can even make it a meatless dish. Alright, so this recipe will go good with just about any type of meat. If you have leftovers in your fridge, I would encourage you to use those, like leftover chicken. Certain holidays, maybe around Thanksgiving, you'll have leftover turkey. You can shred that up. It works very well in this dish as well. Ground beef, ground pork, ground sausage, anything like that. And for myself, I'm going to use a pound of ground beef. But I also love my pepperoni. So if you watched other videos or you're going to continue watching my channel, you'll see that I love my pepperoni. So what I do is I buy a bulk bag of pepperoni. And typically, when you're buying a bulk like this, you have your regular sliced pepperoni. Okay, just normal sliced pepperoni. But then you also end up with these thick slices. Great big thick slices. Okay? These are the ones I'm looking for. And I'm going to chunk them up in about a 1/2-inch chunk. And then we're going to also use that in this dish. Now again, if you haven't watched any of my videos before, you know that I always caution on the health statements. So if you have something like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, anything like that, please be aware of this. You do not have to follow my recipes to the letter. This is all about having fun, learning how to make different dishes, working with what you have. You don't have to go out and spend $200 on groceries to make any of my dishes. Work with what you have. So, if you have high blood pressure, don't use salt. Eliminate the salt. Or use it in moderation. I don't know what your health concerns are, but if you have a heart disease, maybe use a ground turkey. It's not as greasy. Skip the pepperoni, definitely, if you have a heart condition or high cholesterol. But this is all about having fun and learning how to cook without stressing over it. You want to have fun and just experiment and try different flavor palettes. So, if you're following along with this, please be aware of any health concerns you have and eliminate what you're not supposed to have or what might be a trigger for you. Allergies, that kind of stuff. Okay? Alright, so what we're going to do is I got my pound of ground beef in this pan. I have a pot of water that I've added a little bit, just a splash of salt to. And then I'm going to turn the pot of water on probably medium-low or medium-high heat to get that boiling. Now, I've checked my cupboards. I have the same amount of linguine as I do angel hair pasta. So, I previously did a video already, I believe, with linguine, so I figured this one we'll just do angel hair pasta with, okay? Use whatever pasta you have in your cupboards. Macaroni works well. Even egg noodles is a good choice for this dish. If you have regular spaghetti, like I think it's number 8 spaghetti noodles, it is traditional. Angel hair, linguine, rotini, rigate, whatever you have in your cupboards. Do not go out and buy special stuff to do my recipes. Just whatever pasta you have the most of in your cupboard, that's the one you should use, because this will go well with any noodle dish. Just because I'm using angel hair pasta doesn't mean you can't use egg noodles. Okay? So, I got my pot of water on. I'm going to wait for that to boil. And then in the meantime, I'm going to take my bag of pepperoni. And I'm going to pick out all these big chunks like this. And I'm going to cut them up. And I'll show you that in a minute. If you don't have bulk pepperoni like this, you can actually skip the pepperoni if you wanted to. I just use it for flavor. But if you wanted to, you could also do just the stick, the stick of pepperoni that you can buy at the grocery store. You can also do that and just hand slice it yourself to whatever thickness you want. And then I'm going to go ahead and get those going, and I'll show you here in just a minute on what size that I use for my pepperoni. Alright, so I'm cutting up my pepperoni here. And these are just very small, maybe half-inch bites. And then the thicker pieces out of that bag of pepperoni are the ones I'm using. Now, you can also use a sliced pepperoni. They're already pre-sliced. If you're just using a regular slice, let me grab one to show you here. So if you're just using a regular slice of pepperoni, what I would recommend is just cutting it in half one way and then turning it and cutting it in half the other way, so you end up with a quarter pieces like this. Your 4 quarters. Okay? And then, of course, if you're not using pepperoni, you don't have to use pepperoni at all. Basically, I use it just for the flavor. But I am not a very big fan of ground beef. Or ground anything, really. I just don't like the texture of it. Ground beef, ground sausage, ground pork. That type of texture just bothers me. So, anyhow, so I'm going to finish cutting these up. And then all I'm going to do, I'm probably going to do about maybe a couple dozen of these. Again, it's all by personal preference. You do what you want here. It's all about having fun cooking. You don't have to follow my recipes to the letter. It's not necessary. But after you get them cut up, then you're just going to add them to the pan that you already have your ground beef in, that we did earlier. And I'm going to finish chopping these up and get them in the pan, and I'll be right back. Alright, so one of the main reasons why I chop up my pepperoni and I add it to the ground beef mixture is because pepperoni is very, very greasy and fattening. So, if you fry it off ahead of time, it will help eliminate some of that grease and get some of that grease out of that. Now, personally, I also like onion, and you can skip this step if you don't like onions, but I'm going to do some chopped up onions, and I'm going to fry them as well too. You don't want to fry them too hard because you don't want them to be too translucent where they kind of get lost in the pasta dish. You want to make sure that you can still see them, taste them, maybe just like a semi-soft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner on, and we're going to start browning off the ground beef and the pepperoni just on medium heat. Just toss it here and there and brown that off. And then when it's about halfway done with the browning, we will add that onion mixture, or the onions, to it to get them a little bit browned. Alright, so I have my onion here. I'm just going to make slices, probably 1/2 inch thick. And just dice them up real quick. These are going to be roughly the same size as I did the pepperoni, just 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch. Again, I am not a professional chef, so some of mine are going to be smaller than others. I do not know how to cut evenly. Do you ever watch those cooking shows and you're thinking, how did they get every potato or whatever they're dicing? How did they get every single one of them the exact same size? Honestly, I don't know. I've tried it. I can't do it. So, for me, I just do the best I can with, you know, whatever skills I have here. But if you're one of those lucky people that you know how to do that, great for you, and I'd appreciate any tips you have for me, because I don't know how to do it. Alright, now, our ground beef and our pepperoni has not yet started to brown off yet. I do have it over a medium heat, so I'm going to wait until that gets going. In the meantime, our water is starting to boil. So we are just about ready to add our pasta to that. Alrighty, so our pasta water is boiling now. Mine is just slightly salted. Again, you can eliminate the salt if you don't want salt, or if you have a health reason why you shouldn't. And then I just take mine, snap them in half. Put them in the water. A lot of people like them whole. Again, personal preference. I go with what my mama taught me. So, this is what she always did. She always snapped them in half. And again, whatever pasta you're using. I'm just using this angel hair pasta. You can use, you know, rigatoni, macaroni, egg noodles, number 8 spaghetti, whatever you have. Anything works with this pasta dish. Now, if you have watched my linguine one, that was chicken, I believe. So if you watched my video that I did, you will know that I do something that most chefs would cringe at. So, when you're sitting around watching different cooking shows, you know, these chefs, whatever, they always cook their pasta al dente. I do not like al dente pasta. To me, it tastes like it's half raw. I don't like it. So I do make mine soft. I make a softer pasta than is recommended by any chef that I know of anyways, or that I've ever seen. But again, personal preference. If you want al dente, go al dente. If you're like me and you don't like al dente, don't go al dente. So I am using, well, I want leftovers because this freezes very well. So I think I'm going to use about between 1/2 and 3/4 of a box. Again, this will go by serving size. I would suggest you check your box. Typically, I don't know, does it give it? I'm sure it gives a serving size. 8 servings per container. Okay. So I'm doing about 6 servings. Since I'm home with my sister tonight, pack up a dish for work tonight, and have leftovers for tomorrow. Sounds like a win-win to me, right? Alright, so we're going to get this going. Make sure if you're using a spaghetti, well, any type of pasta really, when the starches start coming out, your pasta noodles like to stick together. So make sure, if you don't have one, get one of these cute little pasta things. Really cheap at Walmart. I know, I'm bragging about Walmart again. Honestly, I don't even care for big box stores like that, but it is what's local to me and it's what I can afford. So, but that really helps to break up those noodles so they don't stick together. And nobody wants to pull this out and get one big lump of noodles. So, make sure you stir them often and keep them broke up so they're not sticking together. Let's flip your ground beef there. Maybe. Or maybe not. Alright. Gotta get my spatula. There we go. Come by my spatula. So if you follow along my videos, you know that I use these coated pans. Again, the cheap stuff. That's what I can afford. But one of the biggest complaints that I have heard about these was that they get scratches on them, and it's just too easy, I guess, to scratch them, and the coating goes bad on them. And then you don't want that stuff flaking off into your food. My tip, use plastic. Do not use a metal utensil in a coated pan. Never use metal. Just a tip. Take it or leave it. Now, this is going, it's about, getting about half done here. I got my onion cut up ready to go in, but while I was searching my refrigerator and got that onion out, I found a green pepper. So, I'm going to dice this up, add it to my onions, and here in just a minute or two, we're going to add that to our ground beef and pepperoni mixture. And again, the same as for the onions. We don't want this to be cooked so well that it's translucent. We just want it just slightly browning, and just to bring out some flavors in it. Start the cooking process, I guess. We'll see what happens here, right? Alright, I'm just cleaning this out, getting all the seeds out of it. And then I'm going to give it a quick rinse. And there we have it. I'm going to scoop my onion off to the side there. Slice this up. Typically, I just quarter it when I'm doing a pepper. And can we not see in the camera? No, we cannot. Okay. I got to adjust my camera. I typically just quarter it. Make sure you get all the seeds and stuff out of it. And then I cut slices like this. And then once I have the slices cut, I just cut them into little chunks like that. That's it. Alright. Let me finish cutting this green pepper up. This is just like leftover garden stuff, so if you have anything like that, red peppers, yellow peppers, orange peppers, green peppers, whatever, if you like that, go ahead and add them to your dish. Again, it's a pasta dish. It's hard to go wrong with most pasta dishes. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I've made some pretty bad pasta dishes. Okay. Alright, so my microphone cut out on me. Hopefully you can still hear me okay. I tend to talk a little bit loud to begin with. Don't know what's going on with the mic, but I'm in the middle of cooking and I don't have time to fix it right now. So, I will try to get that adjusted here. And hopefully on playback, you can hear me okay. Alright, I'm going to stir this one more time. Now this is, again, our ground beef and our pepperoni mixture. It's mostly cooked up. There's still a little bit of pink in that ground beef. Again, if you're using ground turkey, ground sausage, ground pork, whatever, you can mix up different meats. Even to do a half ground beef, half pork, like a little bit of a spicier pork is a good one. If you're using chicken, turkey, if you're just going to shred that up, obviously you'll be skipping this step. So, alright, looking good. Alright, it's time to add, we're going to add our onions and peppers to the pan. And this is only going to go for a matter of minutes, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. Because again, we don't want our onions and peppers to be translucent. We just want to warm them up, slightly brown them. Just get them about maybe half cooked. Alright. Let that go for a few minutes. Stir our pasta. And again, this angel hair pasta cooks really, really fast because it's so thin. So depending on what pasta you are using, you're going to go by that. And then again, how you like it. You know, personally, I do not like al dente. So I'm going to go until mine's nice and tender, which is just about now. All right. Let's get this draining. All right. Just a quick recap, because I don't know how far back my microphone quit on me. I am browning up ground beef, pepperoni, green peppers, and onion. And it's looking amazing. And I just got my pasta drained. I was doing an angel hair pasta. And if you're doing a macaroni or number 8 spaghetti, something a little bit thicker, you probably need a few more minutes to cook yours up. Again, however you want it. If you like it al dente, cook it, 10 minutes, get it al dente. Me, I like mine a little bit more tender. I don't care for al dente pasta. I know, big taboo, but I just don't care for it. Go by what you like. Just because the chefs say you should have al dente pasta doesn't mean it needs to be al dente. Go by your own personal preference. So, now I am going to get my sauce ready. So, we'll start on that next. Alright, so, I'm a fan of pepperoni, as you probably already learned, especially if you watched more than one of my videos. And I am a fan of Del Grosso's pepperoni flavored spaghetti sauce, pasta sauce. Now, I do doctor up my sauces. If you saw the one with the pizza meatloaf, you'll see that I even doctor up my pizza sauce. Because I am big for spices. I love my seasonings. If you have a good marinara sauce, pizza sauce, spaghetti sauce, whatever you're using, if you have a good one that you like, you do not have to season it. Good for you. Let me know what you're using. Maybe I'll like it too. Drop me a comment. Let me know. But in the meantime, I'm going to use my Del Grosso pepperoni flavor. And since I made about 3/4 of a box for the pasta, which is going to be, well, a normal, probably, 6 servings for most people. For me, it'll probably be like 12 or 16. And again, it freezes well, and I'm going to have trouble with this. So, for me, I'm going to use 1 to 2 jars of spaghetti sauce. This is 24 ounces. Again, go by however much you're making for your family on how much sauce you'll need. We're going to want the pasta to be coated, but not, we don't want it dry, but we also don't want it super saucy. Alright. I'm going to just veer off course for a second. Because this is browned up pretty nicely, and we do not want to overcook those onions and green peppers. So it's time to turn the heat off, and what we're going to do is go ahead and drain this. Get that, especially from the pepperoni, you want to get that grease out of there. Now, a good trick that I have found is to use just a pan and a colander. You want the pan to be slightly lower, smaller than your colander so that you can set the pan. No, you want the pan to be large. You want the colander to be larger to sit in the pan without losing the colander down in the pan. Okay, I'll get this right yet. Then take 2 or 3 paper towels. Put in your colander. That's going to help to absorb a lot of this grease. And then basically you're just going to dump this pan, dump everything right on top of those paper towels. You want to be careful when you're dumping this that you don't lose your meat and your veggies back behind those paper towels, because with that hot grease, it's a little butter digging that stuff back out from behind. And you don't want to get yourself burned, so please be careful. Okay. All right. And all we're going to do with this is set it aside. And while we prepare our sauce, we're just going to let that drain, get all that grease drained out of it. All right. So magically off camera, I got my jar open. So I'm going to pour that jar in. I got just a little over a jar right now. Now, if you're old school, like I am, so Mama taught me to add a little bit of water in the jar. You don't want to get too much because you don't want to thin out the sauce. But, you know, back in the day, you saved and salvaged what you could. If you made money, good for you. And you don't have to scrape in the sides of your pasta jars, I guess. Alright. So given the amount of pasta that I have, once I add the ground beef mixture, I do believe I'm going to need a little bit more pasta sauce. So, I'm going to grab another jar. And I'm going to add about half of this jar as well. Now, what this also does is it leaves me half a jar to put in the fridge. So, in a day or two, when I'm reheating leftovers, or if I freeze this, and then later on, you know, at the end of the week, I decide to pull a pack out and heat it up for my dinner, I have extra sauce to add to it in case it got a little dry. Now, I'm going to go with my standard seasonings. If you watched any of my other videos, you're probably already well aware of this. I know the ones that I use. And typically speaking, I don't measure. I sprinkle across the top and that's it. So, a little bit of salt. Again, if you have health concerns, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, whatever, you know, be careful what you use. So, a little bit of pepper. I do know that garlic is supposed to be heart healthy, but there are some medications that will interfere with garlic, so just be careful. Okay, so all my dry ingredients. I have a garlic powder, sprinkle across the top. And I'm going to just show you real quick. You can just see the seasoning on the top. I'm not going too heavy with anything. Okay, that was garlic powder, so now we got a little bit of onion powder. Then we're going to use a minced onion. This is just a dried minced onion. Then I have a dried minced garlic. Again, just a sprinkle across the top. Now I use parsley flakes and oregano. Oregano goes good with pretty much all Italian dishes, I think. Really brings out the flavors. If you have fresh ingredients, please don't be afraid to use them. And then I like parsley flakes too because of that bright green on that red sauce. Doesn't that really bring out that sauce? I love that green color on that red. Beautiful. And then, of course, because I'm a garlic fanatic, so if you've seen my other videos, you already know this. I'm going to use probably a good tablespoon or so of the minced garlic. This is just minced garlic and olive oil. Oh my gosh, I wish you could smell the aromas in here. We need a smell-o-vision. Somebody invent one of those. It smells amazing in here. Okay, and then we're going to just stir this all together. Perfect. Alright, I'm going to start with my meat mixture. Because in my experience, I believe that it's the hardest one to mix in without making a mess. So honestly, because I put these on this paper towel, I can just pick this paper towel up, dump it in there, and look at all that grease on the paper towels. Just throw that out then. Better on the paper towel than in your arteries. Now, let's get this all mixed up. And this is the true test, because if this ends up being very thick, you know you need more pasta sauce. But if it's just a little bit chunky, but yeah, you still have sauce around the edges, then you're probably good to add your pasta. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, and here's the pasta that I drained earlier. Okay, let's get that added in. And of course, I've got the wrong spoon. I need to get my pasta spoon. Sorry, I keep going off camera on you. My sink is behind the camera, so when I wash up or have to grab something, it's over there. So bear with me, please. Alright, now this can all be dumped in a casserole dish, or, you know, you got something fancy to serve it in. That's fine too, but for my purposes, I just grabbed a standard cake pan. That's what I'm mixing everything up in. So, and making quite the mess here. So let's get this all stirred in. We want to make sure that this pasta is completely coated and everything is blended well together. Alrighty, as you can see, my pasta is covered. My concern is once this is baked that it's going to be too dry. So I think I'm going to add just a little bit more pasta sauce to this, but I will not add any more of my seasonings. Before I do that, I'm going to get my oven preheated at 350. So let's get that started while I finish this up so that we'll be ready to bake it. So I'm just going to pour a little bit more pasta sauce on the top and just stir this together. That looks better. Doesn't look quite so dry. Again, it depends on how much pasta you ended up making for yourselves. If you followed my recipe, you've got enough here for at least half a dozen to a dozen people, I'd say. Alright. I'm a stickler here, so I'm just going to clean up my pan here real quick because this sauce that's around the edges, once it goes into the oven, it's just going to burn and cake on there, and it's just going to be nasty. It's going to smell nasty, it's going to look nasty, and then it's going to be quite difficult to clean off once it's baked in like that. So I'm just taking some cheap napkins and just wiping that off so it doesn't burn on there. Alright, perfect. Alright, so once we got this layered in there, get all those onions out of there. I want it in my pasta, not left on the spoon. Alright, perfect. Alright, so a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese. Just going to do a quick sprinkle over the top of this. We're not looking for a thick layer of this, just a light sprinkle over the top. And then mozzarella. And of course I've already bagged most of it and froze it. But I'm probably going to need more. So the good thing about when you freeze mozzarella, you can easily break it right up. It doesn't matter if it's frozen or not, it still breaks up. And since we're putting this in the oven, it's going to melt regardless. Alright. So what I have left in here, I'm just going to sprinkle at the top of the pan. Ooh. We were close. We almost had enough. Alright. I said in one of my other videos, I buy bulk a lot, and then I separate them into smaller cans and freeze them. If you're on a budget, that's a good idea to do that. Alright. So, the mozzarella that you put it on as thick as you want. I personally love mozzarella. I just want to make sure all of this is covered nicely. Perfect. Alright. Put this stuff back in the fridge. Alright. Now, another good thing for on top of a baked pasta. Where's my rag? Okay. You just have to learn with my little quirks and stuff. I'm not going to cut out these ridiculous stuff because you know what? I'm human. I don't need to be some perfectionist. And if you came to see a perfectionist, you're on the wrong channel. So, I just have some Italian, Italian. Whew. I have some Italian style breadcrumbs. The only thing I'm going to do here is on top of this mozzarella, I am just going to sprinkle just to cover it a little bit. It'll also give it a little bit of a flavor with those Italian seasonings. And then if you watch my other videos, you know I'm big on color. So on top of that white. So you got the red, then you got the white. On top of that, I'm going to add a little bit of green by just sprinkling some oregano and some parsley on top. Again, I don't typically measure. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe half a teaspoon. Guessing. I just like that color of that green. It gives it a pop. Again, personal preference. If you don't like it, don't use it. And if you have fresh, that just chop up some fresh sprigs of oregano or parsley. And, you know, just diced up real small. Sprinkle that over top. That looks amazing. So we have a preheated oven, 350 degrees. Our pasta's already cooked. Our ground beef or pepperoni is already cooked. Our green peppers and our onions are about half cooked. All we're basically doing here is warming up that sauce, which will finish cooking those peppers and onions, and then melting the cheese on top. So at a 350 degree oven, this should take about 15 to 20 minutes just to warm through. Okay, and so we're going to pop this in the oven now. And I'll see you in 15 to 20 minutes. All right. So it's been about 20 minutes, and it is time for us to check this pasta. So I'm going to pull that out. Oh my gosh, it looks amazing. How delicious does that look? All right. Beautiful. Doesn't this look amazing? So, me and my last minute things. Okay, looks great like it is. But, what I just thought, how about adding a little bit of a bite to this with some mild pepper rings? Just some banana peppers. Now basically all I'm going to do, and if I would have thought of this ahead of time, I would have done this before I put the pasta in the oven to bake. But of course, I didn't think of it till just now, and I thought, even though that looks amazing and it smells amazing, I think I can make it even a little bit better. And of course, this bright yellow color is going to pay off of that white mozzarella and that red sauce and really look well together as well. Alright, let's see. I got about 4 of them. Just chop them up into these little tiny pieces. And all I'm going to do is sprinkle this right over the top. Since I had just pulled this out of the oven and it's nice and hot, it'll warm these peppers right up. Just a little bit of a sprinkle. Okay. Oh, yeah, touch a hot pan. That's smart. Doesn't that look great with those peppers on it? Yummy. Alright, so, little tip. If you have anything with cheese, pizzas, this big spaghetti, you're going to want to let, before you get cut into it, you're going to want it to let it sit for a few minutes, because if you were to cut into it now, as it cools, the cheese is just going to like melt back together, and you're going to just have to recut it again anyways. So, we're going to let that sit just for a couple minutes. Now, I am a stickler for pairing colors together, colors that look very well together. So, normally on something like this, and I probably mentioned this in my linguine video, my chicken and linguine, I like to pair green with it because the green really plays off of the colors and the red sauce and with the cheese. And I was thinking about it, and normally I would do either a green bean casserole or just a side of French cut green beans. But I think, I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and look, but I'm almost certain that all my videos so far has had a side of green beans. So I'm thinking I don't want to do another green bean. Another green would be a pea, but to do peas are very starchy, and this is very starchy as it is. Another one would be corn. The yellow would play off the red sauce, but again, it's starchy. So I think what's going to be best for my side on this, and to make sure I get my veggies, I think I'm going to do a tossed salad. Just a basic tossed salad with some lettuce and tomato, maybe little onions and croutons. And I'll either top it with Italian dressing or maybe a ranch dressing. So let's get that out and we'll toss together a salad. All right. So I got these dishes. Probably at Walmart. I know. I hate to keep throwing Walmart's name around, but I think it came a 3-pack. And these are really good for packing up stuff. So what I will do is a little side salad on this side with pasta on this side, because I always send a dish home with my sister when she's here so that I can feed her. And then I will pack one out for me to go to work tonight with, and that's what I have on break tonight. So I'm just doing a basic salad. And I am a stickler. I don't like that thick white center in lettuce. I absolutely can't stand it. So all I'm going to do is break up some of this in this small side dish on these dishes. And of course, if you're plating yours or you have other dishes you're using, that's fine too. Again, I just re-mention. Pretty sure I mentioned already, but just in case. When your pasta cools off, that is very freezer friendly. So you can pack it up and freeze it for a later time. And then just, you know, whenever you say you have a night when you don't have time to cook anything, just do a quick fix and pull some of that out and heat it up and serve it. It works very well in the freezer. All right. Get my veggies in. Because even though as a kid you don't like your veggies, they are still good for you. All right. So I had some leftover garden tomatoes. Oh, that's a nice ripe one. That's a bad spot, so I'll just cut that piece out. All right. So I'm just making little chunks like this of the tomatoes. And I am extremely picky. So I always cut the core out because I don't want that white part, that white chunk in my salad. I'm a very picky eater. So it's surprising how much stuff I come up with that I'll actually eat. All right. Let me clean this up. Okay. And then, I don't know, you know, what your preference is or who you're feeding, but... Oh, apparently my onion's gone bad. Maybe a couple onion rings on the top. Like so. And then, if you have them, since I'm serving a pasta dish on the side of this, I am doing a garlic and butter seasoned flavored croutons. Basically, just add a couple of them to the top of this. You know what? 4 looks good. There we are. And then, I would say, since this is a classic pasta Italian dish, I would say to serve it maybe with some Italian dressing. Of course, I'm a ranch person myself, but I think with this I'll use Italian. And just to top it off, maybe a little bit of that leftover mozzarella I put in the fridge earlier. We'll put that right on top of our salad. There we go. Beautiful. Now I use my dressing as a dip on the side. So, little helpful hint. If you ever go out anywhere and you get your stuff to go, or you can't finish eating and you need to pack your stuff up, these little cups they serve you, usually ketchup, ranch dressing, whatever. Bring them home, wash them out, save them. You never know when you'll use them again. For me, I will put some Italian dressing in one. Stick it down in my dish, and then at work tonight, I'll have my dressing ready for whenever I'm ready to eat. Perfect, right? Okay. So let me set this aside for a minute. And then we will get... I already washed all my dishes up, so... Alright. Again, I do not use metal on my pans. So... I'm almost going to cut this like I would a lasagna. So probably 3 across this way, the lengthwise. And I'm just sticking my spatula down to cut it. Perfect. Let's see if I can move this so you can see it a little bit better. Then in the middle, I'm going to go, you know, as close to center as I can eyeball it up. And then I'm going to cut across the short ways. And then each of those I'm going to cut again. Just like that. Beautiful, right? Okay. So then, we're going to scoop this up, again, just like you would lasagna. I'm going to add that to my dish for my dinner tonight. And then what I might do is take another cup and add a little bit of extra sauce to it to warm up, just in case that's a little dry whenever I reheat it later. But, overall, there it is. Just a side salad and some baked pasta. And it smells amazing. I wish you could smell it. We need smell-o-vision. Somebody needs to invent that, okay? Give me some smell-o-vision. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't already, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and then I'll keep you posted on my next video. I can't wait to do this again. And enjoy your day. Enjoy your dish. See you next time.